Welcome to beautiful Pagosa Springs, Colorado. We're Sean and Lauren of the Austins Travel, and in today's episode, we are talking about
the 8 worst parts of full-time RV living.
But don't worry, this episode isn't all negative. We just want to give you some of the realities of full-time RV living and some of the things that for us are maybe less than ideal, but wherever possible, we're going to give you some of the ways that we've helped to mitigate or overcome that and make life a little bit more tolerable. So without further ado, should we get into your least favorite part of RV living?
Yeah, let's get into it. One of the worst parts of full-time RV living is very short showers. Short but refreshing. My 10 seconds are up. My absolute least favorite part of full-time RV living is the very short and infrequent showers. And when I say short, I literally mean like maybe 30 seconds to a minute worth of actual like flowing water. Because we take cowboy showers since we have a very limited amount of water in our tanks since we choose to boondock. And I don't want you to think we're like smelly all the time because in between showers we do like sponge bath or use wet wipes. But an actual like full shower like never happens in an RV, or at least the way we choose to RV. However, I do have to say that it is a very small price to pay for getting to boondock in some really, really incredibly beautiful places.
So whether you're a full-time RVer or you only take your rig out on the weekends, one of the worst parts of RVing is dealing with dumping your tanks. There's a term called a poopsie, which is essentially poop, oopsie, and combine them. And unfortunately, in our first year on the road, we've had more than one occasion where we've had a poopsie. So essentially, within your RV, you've got both a gray and a black tank. The black is your waste sewage. That's where you poop and pee and it goes down the toilet. Your gray water is your dishwater, your washing hands, your showers. So I think most people are aware when you're dumping your black tank just how smelly it can be. I think people underestimate just how smelly that gray tank can be. So we really have found 2 ways to overcome this. For the year we've been on the road, we've been using a tank solution called Just Science. It's not sponsored, it's just what we personally use. And the idea behind it is it's probiotics that eat the bacteria that cause the smells. And that certainly has helped overall. The second thing we did, because we're full-time on the road, is we ripped out our existing toilet and instead put in a composting toilet. We will be doing a future install video for the Ogo composting video we got. The idea behind a composting toilet, because you separate the urine from the poop, that's what actually causes the sewage smell. When it's just the poop going in, really, there's no odor. And I'm not kidding, literally, there's no odor from it, and it is so much more sanitary to clean up. So we love the Ogo composting toilet as a great solution to help get rid of that sewage smell. The second benefit of the composting toilet, it's made dumping a lot easier, and it actually allowed us to join our gray and black tanks to double our capacity, meaning we can stay out here longer and spend less time going to find a dump station.
Now that we have shared 2 of our 8 worst parts of full-time RV living, please like and leave a comment below because it really helps YouTube to share our content with other viewers like you.
And on this channel, we do some educational content about full-time RVing. We also like to get off the beaten path and show you some of the absolutely beautiful places around the country that you probably have never heard of. So make sure to subscribe, sign up for notifications so that you don't miss our next episode.
It's starting to get warm out here, so the flies are coming out in droves. Let's go inside to talk about the next worst part of full-time RV living. One of the worst parts of full-time RV living is all the bugs. And particularly at this campsite, the flies have been insane. bugs aren't an issue or haven't been an issue for us at every campsite, but as it's getting warmer here in the summer, we've definitely noticed there's a massive increase in flies, mosquitoes, ticks, and chiggers. And honestly, we haven't really come up with a great natural solution for this. So if you have any solutions, please let us know down in the comments. We have read that herbs like basil and mint are really good, as well as essential oils such as lavender and lemongrass help repel the bugs, but we haven't had a chance to try that out yet. We prefer to use natural solutions that aren't going to harm us, Aiden or Dagny, or kill the bugs, because flies actually are really good pollinators, so we just want to repel them as opposed to killing them. So if you have found a good natural solution or have tried any of the herbs or essential oils and they have been effective, please let us know down in the comments below. We tried the penny in a bag of water trick and it did not work.
One of the hardest parts of full-time RVing is figuring out where to dump trash. I can't tell you how many cities we've been where everywhere we go, it's saying you can't dump trash here. Thankfully, this gas station had one, but that is one of the hardest parts of full-time RVing. So what are some of the solutions we've come up with for trash? For starters, living in an RV, we just try to reduce our footprint and how much trash we actually produce. And so for some of our fruit scraps and things like that, we do have a compost pile and we try and put some of those in the compost. But with a 16-month-old baby, there are a lot of poopy diapers. So one of the ways that we've overcome the issue of figuring out how to get rid of garbage is, one, we've actually moved to smaller trash bags. So this is like a 3-gallon trash bag versus a 13-gallon trash bag that would fit in here. Or we also save our grocery store bags and use those because those hold a small amount and are very, very easy to throw away. But typically we look for city parks, Walmart, gas stations. A lot of places like that will have those garbage containers, and if you've got smaller bags of trash, it's a lot easier to throw away. And in a handful of cities, we even have found free transfer stations where you can go dump the garbage, and that's always super helpful. But those are a couple of things we've done to make getting rid of garbage a little bit easier.
One of the hardest things about full-time life on the road is getting mail, like particularly packages, because we don't have an address. And so I think one of the things that at least I took for granted when we lived in a sticks and bricks house is just ordering things whenever. And so now we really have to plan strategically when we order packages and like think ahead to where we're going to be and do a lot of research to find out like where we can have packages sent, whether it's to like an Amazon locker. Or one helpful thing that our friend Kyle from the Wandering Shores shared with us is that most Dollar Generals will actually let you send Amazon packages to their address, and then when the day that it arrives, you just call them and give them a heads up and then go pick it up. But it definitely takes a lot of planning. And even when you do plan strategically, sometimes things go wrong. FedEx like just couldn't deliver it, or we don't really know what the issue was, but FedEx had an issue delivering it to the campground, even though we saw FedEx trucks coming in and out of there for the whole 2 weeks we were there. And so basically our options were either drive 3 hours round trip to pick it up in Palm Springs or cancel the order. Also, some post offices will allow you to send packages via general delivery, which means that you just send it to their address and pick it up there.
All right, just got done running some errands in town. It is a little bit of a warm day, especially in the sun. Hopefully the camper is not too hot. How is it in here?
It is really hot in here. Can you please turn on the AC?
Yes.
Thank you. Happy wife, happy life. 94.
You're kidding.
No, I'm serious.
Wow. Woohoo! AC's going.
Oh, thank you.
Now you just gotta wait about 2 hours for it to cool down.
one of the worst parts of full-time RV living is that we can't regulate the temperature in here like you can in a house. So for example, this morning when we woke up, it was literally 50 degrees, had a jacket on, had a blanket around me, and now it is 94. So that is a 44 degree swing in what, 8 hours?
All right, so we ran the AC for a couple of hours, got the temperature livable, and it's now the evening, a little bit cooler, so we're going to talk a little bit more about temperature control in an RV. If you've ever been in an RV, you know most of them in general are not very well insulated. Our unit in particular is terribly insulated, like the worst I've ever been in. And so, not kidding, like if it's 72 degrees outside, if the sun is shining, especially through this back window, it'll be like mid 80s in the camper. Really cold in here. Oh yeah? Bundle up. Give us just a second, buddy. So I guess sorry, recording with a baby can be a challenge. And back from a quick break, Aiden is more eager to be outside playing and not filming, so I'm going to share some of our tips and learnings from the cold weather, and then we'll bring Lauren back inside. She can talk a little bit more about dealing with the heat. So we try to chase the weather, which means most of the year for Lauren and I, we're chasing 60 to 70 degree temps where it's not going to get too cold overnight, but it's also not going to get too hot during the day either. So that's our number one tip. But if we are somewhere where it is going to be colder, if we're staying in an RV park, we actually have a space heater, which has worked wonderfully because then we can just run that during the night and it's not having our furnace run constantly, which is causing us to go through the propane. But 99% of the time, we don't have access to electric hookups, so we just have to deal with the cold. We actually set our thermostat quite a bit lower than a lot of people do. We usually let it get down to maybe 50 at night. That keeps us from burning as much propane, keeps the furnace from kicking on all throughout the night and waking us up. But what we do instead is just add a couple of blankets to the bed. Lauren will often dress in layers when we are in colder weather, maybe put on some sweatpants or a jacket. And we just choose to stay, warm up that way, because it also helps when the RV's cooler in the morning, and then as the day gets warmer, like it did today, it takes a little bit longer before the RV gets really, really hot. I guess the final tip we have during the winter is we do use Reflectix that helps to kind of insulate the windows. And so we'll cover up the windows at night and try and keep as much of the warm air inside and the cold air outside as we can.
So I'm going to share 4 of our tips for keeping your RV cooler when it is hot outside. Just like Sean mentioned, for cold weather, also with warm weather, we try to follow the more moderate temperatures and stay within the 60s and maybe at the most low 70s, because our RV usually is like at least 10 degrees warmer inside than it is outside. I hear a baby. Hi, Goofy. Second tip is to find out which way works best for you to orient your RV to keep it cool inside. For us, that is parking front to back, like east to west. And that way the sun is like going over the RV this way, long ways, instead of having so much light come in this big window. So we found that helps keep it cooler in here. Another tip is to maximize airflow. Airflow is like king in an RV. And so we have several fans up in the ceiling that we put on a circuit. So one pulls cool air in while the other one pushes hot air out. And then we try to get all of our windows open as early as possible. And then the fourth tip is cook outside. Oh my gosh, turning on the stove increases the temperature in here like drastically. And so if it's even in like the mid 60s, I will cook outside because I'm trying to keep it as cool in here as long during the day as possible. So I hope those tips are helpful for you and that you're able to stay cool and warm in your RV.
So while filming our 8 worst parts of RVing back in Pagosa Springs, we unfortunately got chased out before we could finish the last 2. So make sure you don't miss next week's episode to find out why we got chased out of Pagosa Springs. But we are now in a new lovely boondocking spot outside of Fort Collins, Colorado. And speaking of boondocking, that is our next worst part of full-time RV living. Now, not everybody who does full-time RVing chooses to boondock the way we do. And honestly, we get to be in some incredibly beautiful spots like we're in here with this little creek down behind us, surrounded by mountains and very few neighbors. And we absolutely love boondocking. The part that can be a worse part of RVing, and what we want to be honest about, is when you choose to boondock, it just means you're constantly looking for new places. So we can stay up to 2 weeks in any given area. Some people choose to move more quickly, every couple of days, every week. We do prefer every 2 weeks, but it still means we're constantly looking for new boondocking spots. And we've had certain times, like back in California, where we really struggled to be able to find any kind of boondocking, and we ended up having to leave California early as a result. How we find boondocking spots, that's a topic for another video. But one thing we did want to share is our good friend Kyle and Michelle over at the Wandering Shores. They do tons of free campsite reviews. In fact, that's how we met them. When we were going to Brown Creek last year in between Buena Vista and Salida, we actually found Kyle's campsite review. That helped us understand we could stay there. But Kyle has a website that you can go to. I'll put a link in the comments where you can find all of his free campsite reviews from all over the country. And he's also a part of a wonderful group on Facebook called Free and Affordable Campsites. Those are two excellent resources to help you out when you're trying to find boondocking spots, because when you're a full-time RVer, you're constantly looking for new spots. Hey babe, should I go ahead and get reservations for Glacier next spring?
Nah, let's just show up and wing it.
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of fun at that location. The only drawback was we had to move 3 times in 3 days.
Oh my gosh, I know.
But speaking of, where do you want to winter in 2025?
Sean, I have no idea. I don't even know where we're gonna camp next week.
To plan?
Or not to plan?
That's the question, and one of the worst parts of full-time RVing. So the full-time RVers dilemma, how far in advance to plan? If you don't plan in advance, you risk missing out on that epic campsite that you really want to go to. But if you plan too far in advance, or your plans need to change, you can also be left footing the bill for an expensive campsite reservation you never get to go to.
We prefer to kind of go with the flow, and so we don't plan too far in advance. Usually like 2 weeks, maybe a month. But we've just found that that's what works best for us. However, a couple times it has bit us in the butt a little bit. Like when we were in Black Canyon of the Gunnison, we literally had to move campsites 3 times in 3 days.
And when we were in Mesa Verde, we couldn't get tickets to actually get into any of the cliff dwellings. But in our little over a year on the road, it's kind of had its pluses and minuses for us.
Like, we've gotten to go to a lot of really cool places that were spur of the moment, because we could change plans on a dime like that. But also we've crisscrossed our paths a little bit,
and
making
burnt
certain
way
things
too much
work.
diesel.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the diesel is a lot. So it's just one of those things that you have to figure out for yourself with your family and your lifestyle, what works best for you, whether you plan ahead or you just kind of go by the seat of your pants and go where the wind takes you.
But either way, figuring out that balance of how much to plan, when not to plan, definitely is one of the things that as a full-time RVer, it takes some getting used to.
So those are the 8 most challenging things for us as full-time RVers.
Minus the laundry.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, so laundry didn't make it into the short list. However, laundry with a baby and now an on-the-move, constantly toddler is really, really challenging. But that's a topic for a different episode. So, if you enjoyed this, please make sure to give it a like, a subscribe, and to hit the notification button so you find out why we got kicked out of Pagosa Springs in the next episode.
See you guys then. Today's episode, we're talking about
our 8 least favorite... Oh, I messed it up. Now that we have shared 2 of our 8 worst parts of full-time RV living, we ask you to like and make a comment down below so that YouTube knows to share content like this with other people. I forgot how I'm starting.
So at least we won't burn as much propane or have the furnace running all night.
And when we went to Mesa Verde, we couldn't get tickets to go into the And when we went to Mesa Verde, we couldn't get tickets to go into the